to apply the cosine rule to find out what x is. All right, so here we see we don't have a 90-degree triangle. We have 120 degrees here. A triangle is made up of 180 degrees. So even if you add up these two sides, you still wouldn't get 90 degrees. You'll get like 60. There's a pattern that you should follow. If you know the length of these two sides and we have the angle in the middle, we can use cosine rule to find out the other side, right? So once you know the length of these two sides, we have the angle which is in the middle, we can use cosine rule to figure out what this side is. Cosine rule has a general formula. The general formula is c squared is equal to right? This is a general formula. Now notice it's in CAB, right? That just simply means the triangle had the letters ABC on it. This triangle here, we have EFG, all right? So we're going to use this general formula and create our formula as it relates to this triangle. So we know this angle here is C, so the angle in question is capital E. So instead of C, I'm writing capital E degrees. Right now, there's capital C, so there's common C. All right, so I'm dealing with common E. So if this is capital E, the side opposite is related to common E. So here will be common E. So I'm writing common E here. I have to put back the square. Now we have A and B. Since this is capital F, this is common F. Since this is capital G, the side opposite, common G. You have to pay attention to the side opposite. Capital E, common E, capital G, common G, capital F, common F. All right. So we have F and G to deal with. So we can say E squared is equal to F squared plus G squared minus 2FG cosine. I want to write this E a little closer, cosine E degrees. Now, if somebody had put E squared is equal to, let's say they put E squared is equal to G squared plus F squared minus 2GF cosine E degrees, same thing, doesn't matter. 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3, addition is commutative, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2, multiplication is commutative. So it doesn't matter the order for F and G, you'll get the same answer. What is important is this capital E and this common E, that must be correct, right? That must be correct. Just erasing this. All right, now we are going to substitute. So instead of writing E, we are simply going to write x squared, because this is what we need to find out. Instead of writing F, we write 95 plus G is 70 plus, well, not plus, minus 2, 95 by 70. FG is F times G, cosine 120 degrees. All right. So I forgot to put my squared. It's very important, very, very important. Remember, it's F squared plus G squared. Using your calculators, all right, using your calculators. I'm going to input 95 squared plus 70 squared. So 95 squared plus 70 squared. So I have x squared is equal to 13925, right? So when I put 95 squared plus 70 squared, I got this. Now I'm going to put negative 2 times 95 times 70 times cos 120 degrees. And you have to make sure that your calculator is in degrees. If your calculator is in radians, you will get a different answer, right? If your calculator is in anything other than degrees, you will get a different answer when you're dealing with inputting cosine of an angle, all right? So make sure your calculator is in degrees. So I'm going to type negative 2 times 95 times 70 times cos 120. So negative 2 times 95 times 70 times cosine 120. And I will get positive 6650, right? Positive 6650. So when I add these two numbers, I'll get x squared is equal to 2575. So x squared is equal to 2575. So x is equal to the square root 2575, right? The square root so x is equal to 143.44 km to 2 decimal places. So to 2 decimal places, x is equal to 143.44 kilometers. Make sure and put your units to 2 decimal places. Now, if the question stated, let's say to the nearest kilometer, right? So then you just simply put 143. If the question doesn't give you a stipulation, then you're free to put whatever you want to put, whether it's 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, 3 significant figure, the nearest kilometer, nearest whole number, you're free to do that. So that's it for question 1. This question, we have to find the unknown angle. And seeing that this is not a 90-degree triangle, we have to check to see, okay, how can we know if to use cosine rule? It's pretty simple. If we have these 3 sides that are known, we need to find the angle in the middle, cosine rule. And we repeat, once we know these 3 sides, we have to find the angle in the middle, cosine rule. So I'll write a general formula for cosine rule. C squared is equal to all right, so there's a general formula, and we're going to put this diagram into the general formula. Now, even though you've seen ABC, it's not really in this form. All right, so let's deal with that. Now, since we have capital B, this is common B, capital A, common A, capital C, common C. All right, now let's deal with this. If this is the angle here, this is capital B, so I'm supposed to have capital B degrees there. Cosine capital B, we know it's common B. So here's common B squared. That is equal to, we have A and C. So A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B degrees, right? So based on this triangle, this is the formula. We're continuing, we're going to substitute. So B is 10. 10 squared is equal to 7 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 cosine E degrees, because we have to find out this angle here, which is E. All right, so 10 squared is 100. That is equal to, I'm going to put 7 squared plus 5 squared into my calculator. So 7 squared plus 5 squared, that will give you 74. Minus, I'm going to multiply all of these numbers here, negative 2 times 7 times 5 is negative 70 cosine E degrees. Transpose 100 minus 74 is equal to negative 70 cosine E degrees. All right, 100 minus 74 will give you 26. All right, continue transposing. 26 divided by negative 70. E degrees is equal to cos inverse 26 over negative 70. Let me write that a little better than that. So you have to make sure your calculator is on degrees, right, else you get a different answer. So cos inverse, open bracket, 26 over negative 76. Negative 70. All right. you will get 111.80, right, degrees, right? This is what you'll get. Now remember the question asks to the nearest degree. To the nearest degree. The nearest degree you will have 112 degrees. That is equal to 8 degrees. All right. So just to recap 1 point, to know if you have to use cosine rule, once you know these 3 lengths, and we have to find the angle in the middle, we can use cosine rule. Cosine rule. All right, that is your mark. So that's it for cosine rule.